Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy, Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Canine Detection Collaborative. Today we're diving into the world of canine search and rescue, and we have two amazing handlers who just got back from working in the intense flooding after Hurricane Helene. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of that, but we're going to talk a lot about the professionalism SAR and what it really means to deploy and to train and all those wonderful things. So joining me first, as always, is the stupendous Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And we're also here with Robin, and she's listening in and ready to throw in some questions along the way in the chat. So we'll make sure we get her included in there as well. So I would like to go ahead and let our two guests introduce themselves, if that's okay. Jack, would you like to start?
Sure, I'll start. I'm Jack Thorpe. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've been, I'm a canine deputy with the Nash County Sheriff's Office. I'm also the director of the North Carolina Troopers Association Canine Search and Recovery Unit, which is a very long name, but that's what it is. Been doing search and rescue for about 25 years, and my current canine, her name is Fiji. She is a very petite German Shepherd with a crooked ear and a rat tail, and she's pretty amazing. So,
I have a crooked ear dog as well, so I appreciate that. How did yours happen?
I have no idea. I got her from the breeder that way, and she was originally going to train in IDP, and that wasn't going well. And so they called me up because she loves everything and everybody. So they called me up and they're like, hey, this dog likes to search for stuff. So, okay. So I went up there and I threw a ball out in a big old field, and 25 minutes later, she found it. I'm like, I'll take her.
Yes, you will.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Crooked ear and all.
Oh, it was
25
great.
minutes later.
It was great. I'm like, I'll take that dog.
Yeah, she might work.
She did. She's been great.
Oh, wonderful. Annissia, I would like to meet you now.
Okay, well, I'm Annissia. I have been doing search and rescue. I'm coming up on my 6th year, so I'm still a baby in the field. I have a lifeline search and rescue dog that's kind of retiring now. She's got some arthritis. She's a Belgian Malinois. And then my human remains detection dog, Dahlia, she's 6. So I've had 2 certified dogs. Actually, I've certified with another dog that was not my own to begin with. And that's how I kind of got started. But yeah, I'm still learning every single day. I'm the assistant director of the NC Troopers Association Canine SAR unit. I have been on the team, 2 years now, Jack?
Yeah, 2 years. Almost exactly to the day. We're pretty close.
Yep.
Wow.
Very close.
What breed is Dahlia? I missed it. I'm sorry.
She's a Malinois.
She's a Mal. Okay. And they're both Malinois. And what got you into Malinois?
I like my life a little crazy. I think I'm a Malinois, so I need my dogs to be able to keep up with that.
I like that. I like my life a little crazy. I think I'm going to use that excuse. I don't have pointies. I have floppies, but my floppies are pretty pointy. So
The pointy floppies?
Yeah, I have pointy floppies. I'm definitely going to use that excuse.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta deal with the crazy, and you gotta enjoy the crazy to be able to deal with it.
Embrace the crazy. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. I know, and Crystal and I, Robin's lurking. We all listened to and enjoyed the podcast that you did on Canine Talking Sense, and we're not necessarily trying to replicate that, right? So, but we do have a lot of questions, and we do kind of want to dig into a lot of aspects around professionalism and search and rescue. And I think, that's some of the stuff that we'd like to get into, and what we can do to really prepare teams that might be called upon to help in a future scenario. Maybe tell us a little bit about, so I think a lot of people might not actually know how your specific organization, kind of how that fit in with the response and kind of some of how that was structured. Can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe how that was kind of set up?
Sure. So my first team was the North Carolina Canine Emergency Response Team. I was on that team from 2001 to 2018. And then I was still a state trooper in North Carolina at the time when I started this team. And so we started it under the North Carolina Troopers Association. North Carolina Troopers Association is originally, for legal defense and for covering a trooper's family if their house burns or, any kind of disaster that occurs. And so they raise money to do that. And we thought it might be a good idea to start getting into more humanitarian missions. So we created another 501c3 nonprofit, and that's the Troopers Association Canine Unit. So we started doing HRD in 2018, and we've been doing that ever since. I think what's unique about this team is we try to keep it small on purpose. We don't really, I think we have 10 members now, maybe 11. I think it's 10. We don't really like to go over about 10. And we do that because we want to try and focus more on our handlers. Although it's been so crazy, I haven't been able to do that much lately, and I know they're going to kill me. But I'm going to get back on track.
Yeah.
But we do that because we want to be able to focus on our handlers and their training and do the one-on-one a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think my strengths are probably HR and some other things that have to do with SAR. And I really like having Annissia on the team because she's kind of a dog behavior genius. And so when we work together and help train these handlers, I feel like the training that they're getting is outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, for instance, Fiji is certified on land and water, and she's done great on both. Dahlia is a fantastic dog on land. I love her to death. She's been great. And we've got some other dogs in training right now that are coming up. And most likely what we're going to do is kind of split off the HR discipline into multiple disciplines because HR is complicated. It's more complicated than anything else I've done. So we can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah.
We're going to split up into multiple disciplines and kind of specialize in certain things for our handlers. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. So I think that's something that will make us unique.
Fabulous. So would you say that the team, it sounds like it's like a wilderness team, right?
We are a wilderness team.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird because I'm a deputy sheriff here now too. So I retired from the Highway Patrol. I work for the Nash County Sheriff's Office. We do a lot of criminal cases.
Yep.
I don't know what our average call load is per year. I think it's right around 80, 90, but
oh, wow.
We do a lot of criminal cases. So I think for every water call, well, no, we've done a lot of water calls this year too.
Yeah.
It's been a ton of them.
Yeah.
But we don't really do as much wilderness.
Okay.
It's mostly criminal, a lot of water.
Gotcha.
And some disaster.
Right. So in my mind, I'm trying to, I guess where my head's going is that because again, you had a whole lot of influx of people wanting to help and everything, right?
Oh.
And a lot of the people that were wanting to help may have a background that's not necessarily disaster or whatever. And so you get a lot of people with maybe some wilderness background. And I guess kind of where I'm going with that is that thinking about how to prepare teams because you guys were obviously extremely well prepared. You were being out there, being capable, and what I'm trying to tease out a little bit is what sets apart really where being as prepared as you guys were versus some of the folks maybe coming in, with all good intentions. I guess that's kind of where I'm trying to go with that.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
Maybe Annissia can expand upon this, but I'm going to go ahead and say this. So I've had disaster training before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have the equipment, we have helmets and all these kind of things. And we could talk about it all day long. We could talk about directionals and working piles and everything. But I will tell you, I think the hardest thing for any team to be able to come out and do a disaster like that, this is not a building collapse where there's really not a lot of distractions. If it's all like rubble and concrete, there will be distractions in there, obviously, but nothing like this. I've never seen in my life an area where we were working where you're going to find hot dogs. You might find a dead fish in the middle of the road, big old catfish right in the middle of the road, right by a Japanese restaurant. I mean, you're going to find everything out there, all kinds of stuff. And so I think that the way that we've trained for distractions in the past was a huge help for us.
Yep.
And so if we're going to talk about how to operate in this magnitude of a disaster, we don't have a lot of HR dogs in North Carolina anyway. And the ones that we do have are qualified to do wilderness and other things. I think that they should focus on more distraction training and obviously collapse structure, confined space with water if they're going to do it. working rubbles and directionals, all these different kind of things. You can do that. But distractions to me is the biggest thing that you have to worry about in a disaster like this. And it affected those fraudulent dogs tremendously.
Yeah.
Because these dogs were alerting on fish, a rubber worm, all kinds of things. So I would say distractions. That's the big one for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that something that's also really important that, we kind of don't speak about is genetics and stability of the dog that we're working. Thankfully, our dogs are super stable. They're very strong dogs. They're getting stuck and up to their chest in mud. And some dogs that they would do that. They would run into a briar patch and be like, okay, I'm done. Our dogs were like, okay, we're just going to get unstuck and then we're going to keep going. And not necessarily something you can train into the dog. So I think that like a lot of people maybe went there unprepared and their dogs for, one, you have the stress of being in that environment. Like Jack said, we had a lot of distractions, we had a lot of food, nasty distractions, dead animals, stuff like that. But then they're getting stuck in the mud and then they're like, why would I want to go out there? So genetics for me is one of those things that like you can't necessarily prepare for. You need to pick the right dog for that scenario.
Yeah. Oh, preach. Seriously. we talk a lot about that kind of thing. And it really is kind of amazing when you see the genetics turn on. That is really kind of incredible. And yeah.
When you're talking about the distractions, I'm really curious if you'd be willing to go into some specifics. So I'm thinking about, I know a lot of it comes beforehand, but even there, like what are some specific techniques that you use to ensure that the dog's attention is staying on task, especially when the environment is so chaotic and overwhelming? So can you maybe share some ways that you layer in distraction training throughout your daily training? And then even when you're there, and like you said, these are distractions you've never thought you would ever encounter. What are some techniques that you use that maybe people could take away and use themselves?
Well, I would say that I think Annissia needs to answer that one because she's really the one that came up with a lot of the ideas. And I think they're great. And they really helped us a lot during this incident. So go ahead, Annissia.
Well, I was going to have you answer that, but
so I saw both of you. I'm so sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Okay, so one thing that we do here. So one of the properties that we train on was where I live. We have about 40 acres of land. And what we do is we put out various meats, distraction odors, whatever, in different stages of just decomp, just grows. Some fresh stuff, some small, some large, and we just leave it out. So we actually don't take the odors up. And so the dogs get to smell them when they're going to the bathroom. They get to smell them, when they're just running around and playing by the creek. And then they're not distraction odors anymore because they're used to them all the time. And every couple months, we just go and we just put something else out there and we just put something else out there. So it's actually just an odor that's already in the dog's inventory, but it's not, it's not important. So that's one of the things that we do here. So every time a dog runs here, that odor is already placed and it's not completely novel. So it's not distracting to the dog because the dog's like, well, I'm just kind of used to that smell anyway. So that's one thing that we do.
It's kind of funny because when I was working at her place, I don't know, it was probably a couple of weeks ago, I was helping another handler train and I went ahead and ran Fiji on the scenario that I set up for her after the fact. It's pretty funny because I forget about it. All these distractions are out there and Fiji was running and she kind of turned toward the fence. She went toward the fence. There's this nasty thing that she smelled and she's like, all right, well, anyway, on to the job. And so when you see a dog do that, you've kind of done the training right. And it helps you in a disaster scenario like this because a lot of the things that Annissia and Julie put out in this field and on the fences and everything else, a lot of that stuff is exactly the same items that we were seeing out on the deployment. Not all of it was, but a lot of it was, especially the dead animals, the fish, ear bones, and all kinds of things are out in her field. It's great. The other thing that we're going to start doing more, and we've done some of it in the past, and it does help. We put rubber gloves out, clean rubber gloves. We're going to put out clean Pelican cases, clean jars, clean ammo cans, any clean plastic bags, anything that we're going to transport or use source in. We want those dogs to ignore all of that stuff because those are novel odors that could be associated with a training aid that we use. So we are going to do more and more of that as we go along, and also place those things in the fields and everything else where we work. So that's been huge for us. And that was, again, in my opinion, the biggest thing that really affected us or didn't affect us on this deployment, which was great. And she's right about genetics too. Like these dogs, I mean, Dahlia was in 18 inches of mud. Fiji was in 18 inches of mud. On the third and fourth floor apartment buildings, 18 inches of mud all day long.
Yeah.
And they just kept going.
So you have me really, really fascinated here. So it sounds like you've got, I want to go back to this distraction training because, and again, I'm thinking about, I've got a newly certified wilderness air scent dog. And I know when I'm working her and she's working, she's not really distractible at all, which is amazing. But I have to say though, if she was just kind of being a dog and there was something out there, I'm not saying she wouldn't be distracted. So I'm curious about, and this is just me kind of thinking about like the practical aspects of this. And if you can kind of walk us through that a little bit. Let's say you've got a field out there and you put, dead fish or, kind of dead animals out there or whatever, and your dog is being exposed to it, but are you discouraging them from interacting with it? Are you just ignoring it? Because I mean, with my dog, it's just like I've just honestly built, she understands when she's working, she only gets paid for target odor, but when she's not working, like how do you do that?
So I think one of the big things that we do, this is funny, Annissia taught me this too. If the dog alerts on a distraction, we don't say a thing. We don't correct it there because we don't want to include that in the chain of behavior for success later.
Right.
So we immediately leash up the dog, stick him in the truck. Don't say a word, no toy, no nothing. Stick him in the truck, work another dog. Talk about a correction. I would like her, if she doesn't mind, expand more on that because she was really the one that taught me about it. So that's one of the things that we do. And it's great because you don't have to talk to the dog at all. We talk as little as possible to our dogs, if almost never, unless there's some kind of dangerous situation or we need to pull them off. But the correction is silent, but significant.
Okay. So I guess maybe I misunderstood because I thought it sounded like she's got a property and that the dogs are just kind of exposed to it. So they're not necessarily exposed to that unless they're working.
No, so you were correct. So Jack's talking about if they're working and they just so happen to give that TFR.
Gotcha.
But what I like to do is I just kind of let them be dogs and explore. I think that there's so much in like self-discovery. And if you kind of prevent them from like making a mistake and checking it out, then they don't know how to problem solve that later. And I don't think that's fair.
Okay.
So if they're not working, I let them check it out. As long as they're not going to eat it and like get themselves sick.
Like roll in it,
Yeah. Like
I do that anyway, right? Like come in smell like dead fish,
Exactly. Correct the things you don't like. But if they're just out there being a dog, just let them be a dog. Because what's going to happen if you make that odor valuable by like being like, you can never touch it. You can never smell it. You can never get close to it. Then it becomes valuable and the dog's going to be like, oh, that gets a rise out of mom.
Gotcha.
I don't want that. So I just kind of let them, if it's always there and if it's just there, the dogs aren't going to find that value in it versus if you're like, don't even look at it. Don't even smell it. Don't go up to it. Then it becomes more valuable because it's scarce.
Gotcha.
And kind of like chasing the dog when it gets away, has no recall and you keep chasing it.
It's fun.
That's a game for them. So she's right. And I love walking the dogs out there. Like we'll let Dahlia and Fiji run. They'll go in the creek. They'll go in the woods. They'll sniff deer bones, whatever. And then they just ignore it and move on.
Because it never gets them paid, right? I'm not going to let them eat it, but it doesn't get them paid. Yeah. So they just learn that like that is not important.
It's just not novel at that point, right?
Correct.
Because there's value in novelty.
Correct.
Yeah.
Something that you mentioned was about being in the mud and it's so much about endurance and resilience, it sounds like. And thinking about that, how do you each build endurance and resilience in your dogs and to keep them motivated? What are your tips or techniques?
Well, a lot of times we work together so often that we do a lot of the same things. Typically what I'll do if we're working after the end of the day, if Fiji is done, that last reward, I do a lot of tug with her because there's engagement there and, it creates a better bond. And so that's been wonderful. But at the end of it all, I'll throw that tug 20 times and I'll throw it as far as I possibly can. So she gets at least 10 to 20 sprints in, but also just walking them, letting them run around together when we are training together. Those guys will go for quite a while until they wear themselves out. So our dogs are moving a lot, and they're moving not just slow, but they're getting sprints in and other things. So they're getting a lot of good exercise in. I will say, I think because of that, the stamina that these two dogs have is kind of through the roof. I'm lucky because Fiji is only like 49, 50 pounds. So she's really petite for a shepherd.
Oh, wow.
But when we were out there doing these scenarios out there, when we were working this disaster, that was wonderful because these dogs were going anywhere between 30 minutes to 4 hours or more. Yeah. And we were working 14 to 16 hour days all day, every day. And they just kept going and going and going. And at some point, I remember seeing Fiji start to limp a little bit. And, Annissia reminded me, hey, they get sore like us. Well, okay. So carprofen. And they just kept going and going and going some more. So I'll tell you, they got a lot of exercise out there too. Walking through that mud all day, every day. Man, that's hard. That's real hard. It's like walking through the sand every day.
That's hard. That is hard.
I think that like in terms of the mental stamina, it's variability that could be in reward schedule. So the dog's not knowing exactly when they're going to get paid, but just holding on to the hope that they know they're going to get paid at some point. So that strengthens that stamina and endurance in the dogs. It could even be something as simple as having somebody else pay the dog when you're in training, just switching up some different way. So the dopamine has the most effect. So even sometimes Jack will mark Dahlia and will reward. And then she's like, oh my goodness, I didn't expect that. So I think variability is super, super important, whether that be like on a variable reward schedule or you're switching up toys every once in a while or somebody else is rewarding your dog. Having something that's out of the norm will definitely increase stamina mentally.
Your physical stamina too, I'm curious because like you said, we can't prepare for this kind of devastation. Do you guys do a lot of canine fitness, like proprioception training? Because I'm just wondering, I think about our Mals and our Shepherds, and sometimes they don't have the best body awareness or preservation. And so to keep them healthy and lasting longer, do you work on a lot of those instead of big muscle movements of also those more controlled motor skills? Because it seems like they really struggle with that. But again, genetics, I get it. Like you got to find the right dog that understands that it's not all about just big movement.
I don't do as much as I should, right? I'm especially, with your Mals, like you said, big movements. Like that's us all Mal. Yeah. And so no, I don't do a lot of that, but I'm really into like supplements and making sure that they have rest days and making sure we're switching our conditioning. So a lot of times we go swimming, we do that. And then we have like ladder exercises that we do. So we do kind of like the larger movements, but you're right. I should probably incorporate some of the smaller, more refined movements into our routines.
Yeah, man, it's just, they scare me sometimes. They're just like, let's go.
Yeah. I know.
I don't have to worry about that as much as you all do. Fiji is wild and she's definitely a crackhead, but she's not Mal crackhead.
She has self-preservation, whereas my dog does not.
Genetics, man.
Yeah,
you got to get the drive and the energy, but at the same time, the control. And it's such a fine balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually have a Labrador like that I do not do search and rescue with. And I don't because I think she'd kill herself in about 5 minutes. So,
and Jack, you mentioned engagement, and that's like my favorite conversation to have. So I can't let that one hang. I have to like bring that back in. And I have a feeling that Annissia, you're also in the same boat. Talking about variable reinforcement. I'm like, yes, sister, here we go. We're new best friends. And I'm thinking about that balance between ensuring your dog is focused on you, but also giving them the space to make decisions, especially in the search scenarios. What does engagement look like for you both in the field?
So that's interesting. When I'm working Fiji, we don't talk to her. I don't talk to her. I use a lot of body movement to get her to where I want. We call it push-pull, and we were taught that by somebody years ago. And so I'll do a lot of push-pull. Let's just go into a building, for instance. If I want Fiji to go in a particular room, I won't say anything. I'll move toward that room and I will kind of step toward that room. And when she sees that, she goes in. But as soon as I step toward that room, I back away because I want to give her the space to be able to work on her own without me trying to cue her or me getting in her face. I don't talk to her, check it all the time. We don't do any of that. So in terms of like distractions and things like that with voice and everything else, we don't really do a lot of that. When it comes to engagement with her, and Annissia taught me this too, was I used to play two ball with her a lot, or I would just throw the toy a lot. And she liked that. She had a lot of fun with it, but she didn't get next level until we started doing tug with her, where we have that eye contact and we're able to engage with each other. And that really increased the bond with Fiji and I. And that was great because out in the field when we're working, she used to be kind of sticky with me. And when she's in heat, sometimes she still will do that. But she doesn't range as far as Dahlia. And a lot of times I kind of like that because I like to be able to see my dog all the time. So I feel like I have a good balance with her. She'll go out and she ignores me, especially if she's in odor, she'll definitely ignore me. But, how do I teach that balance? I don't really talk to my dogs a lot and therefore they don't stay near me. If you put too much obedience on a dog, then the dog's going to want to heel with you all the time. So we try to avoid that. The obedience that we put on them is an emergency stop, a recall, maybe a heel, maybe a sit down, stuff like that. Maybe a bark if it's a bark alert, but not much more than that. Annissia, and I'll let her speak to this. She does more, I guess you would call it lifestyle obedience. I'll let her use say the term, but she has a really good balance with Dahlia in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think that in terms of engagement, like Jack said, we're kind of hands off when the dog is searching. Like that is your time to shine. Like, better than me. You have the better nose. So we are take a step back and the dogs kind of just take the reins there for the most part. But the engagement really comes after and the reward and making sure that play is valuable and it's important. And that makes the dog want to work for you and work with you. Like you guys are a team. And so like they do a really good job and that payoff should be equally as good. So I think that's where the engagement comes in. Like Jack said, we really just don't want sticky dogs. We don't want dogs that are like, oh, are you going to lead me to source? We want them to kind of to take the reins and go off and do what they do best.
So you mentioned genetics. And so when you're talking about all this, like my head goes to genetics and drive. And a lot of what you're saying without the genetics and without the drive, if you don't have that, it makes it really hard.
Yep.
And I think that's why a lot of handlers fail.
Yeah.
Because they pick the wrong dog. Or they can't handle that dog that has too much of a high drive for their ability. Yeah. So I do think that that's super important. Like I like the really high drive dogs, the ones that are a little bit crazy that will just go, like Fiji and Dahlia do, because we can pull back the reins, but it's really hard to increase the desire. In my opinion, it's harder to increase the desire versus pulling it back. So there's a lot of, we've taught seminars before. I just taught one recently, and some of the dogs are higher drive than others. And some dogs would work well in the environment that we were in North Carolina, and some won't. And the handlers need to recognize that. They might be great at a crime scene. They might be great on a 1 or 2 acre property looking for a burial from a murder or something, but you put them out there and they're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
And some of these dogs, the handlers have to recognize that. And we try to teach our handlers as much as possible about how much drive their dog actually has versus what they might think it has.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's about really being kind of truthful to yourself.
Yes.
And really understanding the dog in front of you versus just kind of, I'm sure you saw quite a bit of folks who just, well-intentioned, but
yes,
not necessarily well-equipped.
I'm thinking about the foundational behaviors you just kind of mentioned, and I'm curious, the foundational behaviors that you both believe are essential for the SAR dogs before the disaster-specific training begins even. So knowing what you needed on deployments, what are those key behaviors that you feel like the dogs need straight away before, like if you can't check these boxes, don't deploy?
I would say fearless or close to it, maybe with some self-preservation there. Prey drive, choy drive, things like that. The hunt drive in there. I want it through the roof as much as I can get before I'll even train a dog. Annissia, you might be able to expand upon that too.
Yeah, no, hunt drive is obviously the most important thing. If we're talking about a dog that already has training, it's just dedication to odor. And that's the most important thing in terms of putting a dog into the environments that we have put our dogs in, dedication to odor. And going back to the stamina thing, like they have to be able to work for hours at a time and still be as strong as they were when they came out of the gate. So hunt drive, dedication to odor, and stamina. And like Jack said, just fearlessness, but not even that. It's just, they have to kind of be methodical. Like, okay, well, I smell something this way. Like, I can't really get up to it. Like, let me work it out. And being able to work on their own and independently is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to expand upon that. I'm going to tell you a story, and I've told Annissia this in the past. So I remember when I first got Fiji, I got her at like 10 or 11 months from two amazing breeders. They're great people. And we were working a steel building. So it's like probably 40 feet by 30 feet.
Okay.
And it had different motorcycles in there and things like that. And about 4 feet up or so, there was kind of this little shelf thingy that went all the way around the building. So you could take a jar and put it anywhere and the dogs will be able to work it, but they can't touch it. They can get very close to it. They can get within millimeters of it, but they can't touch it.
Okay. So it's out of reach.
Yeah. So I put that jar on the shelf one day and there was a few other handlers with me and Fiji's working and she's brand new, but she's already got this crazy dedication to odor because I drilled it into her, God knows, a million times. Just 2 in the morning, I'm drilling her. 5 in the afternoon, I'm drilling her. So we're in this room and she's working and we get to about the 5-minute mark. And one of the other handlers, she said, I think at this point, you probably need to help your dog. I said, absolutely not.
Oh.
If she can't work it out, I'll get another dog. But if she can, we'll continue. I think it was probably 15 minutes later, she finally got it.
Wow.
Without any help from me. How hard is that? Oh my gosh. I can't even explain to you how hard that is because you do want to help them.
Right.
But if you do that, you're taking away from their training. So
Gotcha.
I think it was super important to we always let them work it out on their own as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of plays into then what do you look for in your canine handlers? So I think that kind of ties in maybe to what you might say for that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, I'm like, we're talking a lot about the dog. Let's talk about the people.
So Robin actually in the comments said the top 3 things you want your handlers to know and understand. So I think that we can put those two together maybe.
Oh gosh, put me on the spot.
You can shift it to Annissia. She's ready.
Yeah,
I don't know because when I joined the team, there was only like 3 people on the team. So we've grown a lot in the last 2 years. But Jack, you say it because I'll elaborate on it.
I think you're good at it because what did you bring to the team? Because clearly they wanted you and you're a great asset. So what was it that you brought that maybe they needed?
Oh, I don't like this question. I don't like talking about myself. Okay. So
okay, there you go.
I'll answer it.
I know I bring a better attitude than Jack. So
I think he was getting ready to say something nice about you. So
all right, Jack, you go ahead.
Wow. Okay. Bye.
Oh my God.
Gosh, what are the qualities? I hate to say it this way because it sounds like I'm talking about a dog, but I mean, you have to have somebody with a solid temperament. You know, they've got to be able to work for long periods of time. And dedication to it is so hard to find handlers that will stick with it for long periods of time because you get so many handlers that once they get about a month in or 2 months in, they're like, oh, this is hard. And then they're gone, you know, okay, bye. And so that is an issue that we've ran into in the past. And that's kind of why we keep our team small, because everybody that's on the team right now, I mean, they're pretty dedicated and they will continue to work and work and work and work. So I really love that about them. Their attitudes are wonderful. We don't have any drama on this team.
Oh, that's nice.
It's great.
That's brilliant.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's rare too.
It's
awesome.
wonderful. But also brains. Like, I was at a level that I thought, and it was, I mean, I've done a lot of calls before I ever met Annissia and the rest of the group. But when I brought her on, she kind of changed the team in a lot of ways. She did give me a little bit more of a temperament. She's not afraid to call me out. So some of the people on the team are kind of scared of me. And I think it's probably because I'm tall and I wear a uniform or whatever, because I'm a police officer or whatever it is. I have no idea. I try not to be scary, but it's just not possible. So she's never been afraid of me. She's always called me out when I needed it, even if I didn't think I needed it. And that has taught me to be more patient with my handlers. And so I think I have a little ways to go there still. I think we all do sometimes, but that patience has kind of paid off. And I was kind of closed-minded back in the day too. Like, I had a certain way I would train. And if you didn't like it, just don't join. And she was like, well, I'm not going to join your team unless I can work with another team that I like. And I'm not going to join your team unless I get to train certain ways. And I'm not going to join your team for this. I'm not going to join your team for that. And I was like, okay, all right. You got your way. You can train with other people. You can do whatever you want. And wow, she really did. So it really opened me up, and I was able to kind of look at different ways of training, especially from the behavior side and things like that. So it kind of elevated my handling skills as well. And the people that she brought with her were from they're all from another team that went defunct, and no fault of their own. And they came to us. Well, Annissia came to us, and then she brought several other handlers with her over time, and they've been fantastic. I love them. They're great.
That's awesome.
I couldn't ask for anything better. You know, I see some of the things going on in search and rescue. We all know this, the drama, and let's just call it what it is, hatred.
Yeah.
From one team to another, or from one handler to another. There's a lot of this out there, and we just don't have that. So I feel, you know, as a director of this team, I feel very lucky. I can't wait until she takes it over.
So I wish we don't really want to have these recorded, because we don't really want to have to like look decent. But if you guys could have seen Annissia when he said that he wasn't very open-minded back in the day,
that the head was shaking.
it was the perfect bobblehead impression I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was kind of funny.
I was just going to say, he was very set in he was very my way or the highway. And I was like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Like, going back to the question is like, what are the things we're looking for in people? It's like flexibility, because somebody's going to see something different in your training, and you have to be willing to be like, okay, I can see that. Like, how do we fix a problem? So flexibility and being able to work the dog in front of you, super, super important. And like patience, because like the way that one learns may not be the way that other people learn. I'm thankful to be able to work with a lot of people. I love working with people just as much as I like working with dogs. And it's super important to understand that everybody learns a little bit different. And Jack's way or the highway doesn't necessarily work for everybody. It didn't work for me. And so I think that is really, really, really important when you're working with people, is just figuring out how to actually teach them.
And to add to what she said, I will say the last 2 years of where this team was and where we've come is just a huge improvement over where we were. I'm not saying we were bad back then, but oh my gosh, we're so much better now because of the things that we've done here, and being flexible and watching other handlers and learning from them as well, and listening to them tell me what they think instead of just be like, you know, closed off. No, you're going to do it like this. You can do it like this. You can do it like this. You can't do that. And that was a big lesson that I learned. And it was a lot of growth for me. And I think because of that, our team is just getting better and better and better. We don't really have a lot of plateaus. Sometimes there is because of time and things like that, but not all the time. So I think that the team is wonderful. We're very flexible in terms of training, and If somebody makes a mistake, if we're all there to watch it, we're not going to make fun of them. And, unless they fall or something or drop their phone, because we always make fun of everybody when we do that. But in terms of like the training, I say, and we do this, is if we have 5 handlers out there and one of those handlers has messed up or the dog did something that it shouldn't have, then we're all going to stand there and we're all going to figure it out together. Because even my least experienced handlers, many times they will say something like, that's a good idea. And then we come up with a training plan for that person and they get homework and they go home and do their homework. We actually have homework sheets.
That's awesome.
Who created that? Annissia just looked at her hand. So Jack, I'm curious, how did you become more open-minded? What was the moment? Is there because there are so many teams and, I've been trying to find a team that I want to fit on and, I'm looking for that open-mindedness within teams. And what causes that shift for someone?
For me, it was, gosh, I hate to keep saying this. It was Annissia when she came on the team, because that closed-mindedness got shut down real quick. Number one, she wasn't afraid to tell me what she thought, but also the things that she was coming up with in terms of solutions to problems were significant. And they were kind of changes that we could implement permanently to the team to make it better. So there was a lot of, okay, yeah, Jack, you're not going to do that like this. You're going to do it this way. And I'm okay with that. I think she kind of hates it when I say this, but the first 6 months to 8 months on the team, I was her mentor, and that kind of switched around. And I'm okay, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. I've been doing this for 25 years. She's got 6, and it's not just her. When you get people with that kind of knowledge and they're able to elevate so quickly, use it, encourage it. So I encourage them to do as much as possible. I try to anyways. And so the moment that I realized she became a better handler than I was is the moment that I was like, okay, this team is solid. And that translated to both of us being able to kind of, for lack of a better, what would I say, kind of match each other, not match each other, but help each other. When we train somebody, she's got strengths and I have strengths. And so when you combine those two things, it really helps the other handlers.
So you're greater. The sum is greater than the sum of the parts, or whatever that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
So let's also want to kind of talk about certifications and what your perspective is on certification. I know sometimes we do hear, I've had conversations with other people anyway, but external certifications, thoughts on it. Some teams do like an internal. What are your thoughts? How often? That kind of thing.
So I don't know. I'm kind of a fan of the 2-year spread. That's just me. And so I certify my dogs under IPWATA.
Okay.
Our team allows IPWATA, NAPWATA, NASAR, maybe a couple others. I can't remember what they are. We have a policy manual, I think, with those in there.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking forward to what was it, AAFS? That group is going to come up with. I haven't really seen it. I know there's been public comments about it, but I'd like to see it. I think for me, there's part of it is, let's get the piece of paper so we can really train. And so you get the piece of paper that looks good in a courtroom. And when you testify, you can say, my dog did this minimum. But the only thing I can do is equate it to being a police officer. So when I went to the training academy, I went through 7 months of, hell. And when I graduated, I was a state trooper. It was great. But as soon as I got in a patrol car, I realized I know nothing. If I were to stop a car right now, I wouldn't know what to do. So then you have field training, right?
Yep.
And so that increases your level of knowledge. And then once you're out of field training, okay, now you can go out, stop cars, take calls, handle a domestic, whatever. And even then, you're still not great at it. It takes experience. So we require a national certification on our team. There are handlers who have an internal certification as well. I don't really focus on that as much. We use the national certification, something that's been court tested. I know AMPWATA, IPWATA. I think we actually allow NAPWATA as well, NASAR, all of those have been in court. So that's the way we go. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what's your thoughts on like like ground searcher certification. Like, do you require that as well?
Yeah.
Because I know some of the national certifying bodies they can be a little bit different in terms of their requirements for that as far as a prerequisite. So
we have NASAR SAR-Tech 2. They have to be at least a SAR-Tech 2 before they can be deployed.
Okay.
We also, and in North Carolina, there's actually a state certification. It's called Land Search Field Team, and it almost exactly matches NASAR. So if you get that Land Search Field Team in North Carolina, that's good for us.
Yep.
Land navigation, obviously, and that's kind of part of SAR-Tech 2 and Land Search Field Team. But also, IS 100, 200, 700, 800, 809, some of the ESF certifications. I would like to start getting our team into 300 and 400, but those are in-person classes. And it's going to take us a little while to get those scheduled.
Yeah.
But those as well.
Yeah.
And then wilderness, first aid, CPR, all the standard ones. So they have to have all of that.
Yep.
But not only that, so we also require, even after you get certified, you're still not going to be able to deploy on your own for at least a year.
Mm-hmm.
Either Annissia has to be with you, or I have to be with you, or if it's a live find search, our member, Julie Balmer, she has to be with you. So if one of us three aren't with you, you're not searching.
Okay. So you actually require a certain type of accompaniment.
Absolutely. Because if you go out there and you don't know who your emergency manager is for that,
right,
for that area, whether it's a state emergency manager or a local emergency manager, you might not be able to communicate with them what you really need to. So if I or Annissia goes with you, then not only are we going to watch your dog with you, we might see something that you don't, or vice versa. But also, I can communicate with state emergency management or local emergency management, local police, sheriff's departments. At least for me, that's kind of where my expertise is the contacts, the ability to talk to those people and get what we need so that we can better serve them, because sometimes they just won't listen. And if you come in there and you're real timid, they're not going to listen to you.
Right.
So that's why we have that year, because we want to be able to make sure that they're confident, that they've met these people and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
And just because you're certified does not mean you're deployable.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. So I'm looking at Robin's comments here, and she says she wants to know how often you incorporate blanks and blind into your training, and when are you coming to Iowa to do a seminar? And if you will also include, I'm ad-libbing this part of it, the air scent side. So
I would love to do it. I've actually, earlier in my career, I didn't really like teaching, but the last year or two, I've taught a couple of seminars, few seminars now, and I'm like, I like this because I just taught one, 2 weeks ago, if that. And I loved the reaction from the people when the light bulb came on.
Mm-hmm.
There was specifically, we worked in a room where this is an exercise that many dogs and many handlers were very uncomfortable with. Go in the room. I put the training aid behind the handler. The room is probably 30 by 30. And they have to go up to a pillar and they have to face a certain direction, and they can't come away from the pillar, and they can't move their head, and they have to look straight forward or close their eyes.
Wow.
And then I stand back and then I tell them when the dog is TFR, and then they can reward it. And it's very uncomfortable for them because it teaches two things. One, it teaches the handler, you need to be quiet. You need to not be checking your dog all the time. You need to move in a room that allows them the space to work on their own. But also the dogs, 80% of the time, the dogs would not leave the certain square within the view of the handler. They would not go behind them.
Wow.
So some of these handlers took 3 minutes. Others took 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so,
wow, that's huge. Wow.
But finally, the dog would come off and go away from the handler. And then they would come out and get it. And I'd say TFR. And that handler, a couple of them cried because they were like, oh my gosh, there's a barrier that we just broke that I didn't even know existed.
Wow.
So we teach things like that. And I really enjoy that. So I would love to come out and teach one anytime you want. I can't claim I'm an expert. Everybody's always going to come up with better ideas sometimes, but I would love to come out and do that. It'd be fun.
Like I said, you need to add something on there for the non-HR dogs. Just saying.
We can bring Julie with us.
Okay, just saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
Hi, everybody. This is Robin. We're going to pause here. We're going to allow you a week to go back and re-listen to this episode because there's an amazing amount of information in this 50 minutes. And we will pick up more conversations with Jack and Annissia next time. So go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative.
We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.